beautiful souls. Welcome back to Healing Horizons. I'm your host, Pragya, and today we are stepping into something so many of us feel but rarely talk about out loud, that constant undercurrent of anxiety, the daily overwhelm, and the quiet burnout that seems to live in our bones. Whether it's waking up already exhausted or that moment when a simple text feels like too much to handle. We have all been there, but what if that tension wasn't just in your head but in your nervous system, asking to be witnessed? Joining me today is Sharon, a powerhouse of compassion and wisdom with over 30 years of experience as a nurse and deep focus on holistic feminine wellness. Sharon helps women not just manage stress, but reconnect with the sacred intelligence of their own body. Let's take a collective breath and begin. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, for having me. I'm so excited.
I am so excited too. Okay, Sharon. So let's start with this. So why do you think that anxiety it feels like it's become a default setting for so many women today, or do you even think it that way? Like whether it's lying awake at night overthinking that one conversation over and over again, or feeling a wave of panic just opening our inbox. This undercurrent of stress, it seems to be everywhere. So what do you have to say about it? Has it become a default setting or is it something else?
Uh, it's such a important question, isn't it? Because I feel that, yes, I think that people almost default to saying now I'm just stressed or I'm too busy. That seems to be something that, almost in inverted commas is said for women. And it's almost, I think sometimes it's worn as a badge of honor. And part of the work that I have started to do within my wellness business is really sort of helping women reset their nervous system. And potentially they won't know what that level is because they have not been aware of the changes that they've kind of done. And I think COVID has kind of had a significant contribution to this. We had a pandemic that went worldwide very quickly, that people were shut down, put in their homes, and then suddenly there was loss of, control over your life. And I think that that's all that has done is expedited and like almost magnified our ability or our feeling to control what is happening in our life. And I think women are naturally people who want to care. They do care. They are looking after everybody all day, every day, and themselves are just not the priority. And I think we need to start the conversation back around how do we bring myself back into the forefront, and then I look after everybody else.
Mm, That is so true, and I totally agree with it. Also, I know a lot of women they resonate with it so much. Thank you for sharing that with us. Also, Sharon, so do you think that have we normalized constantly being on, replying instantly, done everything, showing up for everyone? So, is it something that is affecting women or humans in a general way? What do you have to say about it? Like a very
Yeah,
short thing. Huh.
yeah. I definitely think we have normalized this. It's almost like this intrinsic being that we live with. And there, like you said, there's the endless emails. And I think the fact that we have 24-hour connectivity around the world, I think there is a sense of obligation that we need to sort of be responding to people. And I would really like, I understand that there are so many benefits to being with technology, to being able to connect to people like ourselves right now. that, traditionally maybe you might have said, I wouldn't have had this contact with you and your listeners because the technology just didn't give it to us. But we also then have to learn how to manage our own boundaries within that technology so that wherever you're living and whatever your life is doing, I think there needs to be some sort of time where people sort of say, I've hit 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or I've hit whatever the end of your your work hours are, to then say, I just now need to have, my work day is done. And now this is my time. This is my family's time. This is, my actual life time, so to speak. And I do think that we kind of are consumed, maybe. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but we want to be everything to everyone. And I think as part of that you're trying this constant drive to, create the best meal, have, look fantastic. So you're going to the gym, you're eating and doing all of that sort of thing. But it's being driven from an external perspective rather than an internal perspective. So, we're kind of, if you imagine, I think it's like the world is dictating to us what we should be doing with our time, when I think women particularly, who are very clever little humans, should actually start to come from within to sort of say, okay, how do I actually try and find some boundaries within my own day to give back to myself and to allow myself to regenerate and to heal and to rest, because you can't keep giving to everybody else from an empty vessel. Like, it just doesn't work. It's like pouring a cup of coffee that's been empty for 3 days. There's nothing there to give. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's where women then become very anxious. They become frustrated. They become very overwhelmed. The phase of perimenopause, which now can kind of be, potentially up to 10, symptoms can be 10 years up to when you actually kind of get recognized as, okay, I think I'm now through menopause, so to speak, and now I'm post-menopause, to sort of, it just makes things worse. And I think if women are starting to feel this early, and if they're feeling like this overwhelm and this frustration and almost like an anxiety that kind of can be driven with depression, because it's kind of, and it's like an all or nothing scenario. And I just don't think that that's correct. Like, I don't think that's healthy. And I think that we all have to take a step back and kind of acknowledge that, we're perfect just as we are, and that our perfection only gets magnified when we take time to rest for ourselves first.
That is so, so true. And I agree with so many things that you've said. And that was a very, very clear framework and a reminder to, have a differentiation and have a boundary with ourselves, with our family, with like for ourselves, for our family, and for our friends, and for our people, and things that we have to do rather than, just sitting on a computer and everything. That was so, so true. Also, Sharon, menopause, as you talked about, it often seen as a decline, and we all know that. But many women that I know, many women that I've seen out there, they sometimes describe it as a powerful turning point. So, how can this transition actually happen, and how can this become a time of nervous system renewal and deeper self connection? Or do you have a different point on that?
No, I completely agree with you. I think it's all, I know that like perimenopause, menopause is tainted with this, oh my goodness, I'm getting old. Like, it's like sort of the um it's like the old woman scenario. But I think the thing is, and it's very interesting because I do work in the medical model, so I still work actively in an acute hospital. And, the medical model is trained under the women have certain, symptoms, I suppose, or phases, but there is no energetics or there's no emotional and spiritual connection that's done with the transition of the body, if that makes sense. And I think the thing is that, yes, we do go through a phase where, we've gone through puberty and then we have our families. And so we birth children. And then really, like, as we do continue to get older, the point of perimenopause is that your hormones are starting to decrease. So your estrogen, your progesterone, there's a bit of testosterone that's kind of also decreases, because what's happening is that our reproductive system is saying, okay, well, the number of eggs that I have each month that are released are declining, kind of thing. And so therefore my fertility changes. But I think the thing is that there is a real opportunity, I think, for us as women, considering we are 50% of the planet, that I feel that we should be starting to stand up and be proud of this phase that we then enter into. Despite all the hot flushes and the anxiety and the fact that we suddenly go, my body doesn't look like it used to, and all of that kind of stuff, I think what it does is it gives us an opportunity to refocus back on ourselves, because what happens is that you do start to look at yourself and you kind of go, man, I'm not looking like I used to, like when I was 20. And that's okay. But there are things that we can do for ourselves to take that control back. And I think that certainly, I think emotionally and spiritually, I think it's a real gateway into our true self. I had an experience just this week in regard to some business strategies, if I call that. And I was kind of feeling really overwhelmed. Like, I've got all sorts of ideas and creations that are kind of going on for my wellness space in the world, so to speak. And I feel I absolutely was getting, I felt like I was being pushed into a corner almost, where everybody was sort of pointing at me and they were making me want to make decisions. But attached to that decision was also me giving them money. And at the moment, like, I'm kind of still working full time, I'm just not unlimited with my own finances. And so I kind of, I was a real struggle to realize that I really wanted to say no, but I don't know. I didn't really have the mindset to be able to say it with the eloquence and grace that I would like to. And so you end up going down a path with this other person that you kind of, you shouldn't have even been in the conversation in the first place. Do you know what I mean? And then you kind of feel like you get pushed and pushed and pushed, and then you feel bad because actually you don't want to have anything to do with this. This is not part of what the frame is that where you want it to be. And so you're trying to come out of that frame, and it does cause a huge amount of anxiety. And I kind of, at the end of the whole thing, I had to say, look, this isn't the right thing for me right now. I'm really sorry. I've wasted your time. But within me, I felt like a volcano, and I know that I was trying to be, kind and considerate externally. But I think after I got off or out of the scenario, I think I probably sat quietly, well, not quietly, but I cried. I just cried. Like, I had this internal eruption of all of this anxiety that I'd been holding, and this fear that people weren't going to accept me as who I was and my business and what I have to say, because I kind of, you get pressured from other people who kind of say to you, well, you should say things this way, or you should be this, or, you're meant to look like this. And really, it just was such an eye-opening because it only happened the other day, that I thought, I have done so much work on my own nervous system and, helping other women and, every day in the hospital, that I thought, this still happens to us. Like, this is not something that kind of happens just once, and then you kind of go, yay, I've gone through the, the goalposts and I'm okay. These goalposts will go with us for life, and they will move, they will shift according to whatever our life is presenting to us at the time. And I think that we have to learn and use the opportunity to kind of go, if I don't say this now, when am I going to say it? Do you know what I mean? Like, we kind of, in our 20s and in our 30s and even in our 40s, when we're married, we've got small children, we're trying to keep it all together, we do sometimes probably compensate to things, or we don't say things that perhaps because we want to keep the peace, we want everyone to get along and be happy, and we want, the in-laws to be nice to one another and all the rest of it. And yet I kind of feel it's just not fair to you. Like, it's not fair to your nervous system, because all you're doing is sending a message to your cells and to your, your core muscles and your, gut and all the rest of it, and your heart, to say, I'm not putting myself first because I don't see the value in me. And, like, you're almost saying, I value everybody else, I don't value me. And I think if you can't start to consider that going through this phase, where I think now you can use your symptoms to your advantage, like, you could almost say, yes, you're feeling anxious. Yes, the hot flushes are coming, or yes, I'm not sleeping properly, or, man, I've got now a tummy that I didn't want to have before. But maybe that's the signs that you can kind of go, okay, enough is enough. I have to look after myself because I'm not happy with what's going on, and I need to resettle myself so that my body is working, is healing, it's rejuvenating, and it's recovering. And it's also emitting who I really am as a person. Like, that's where your energy comes from. That's where, the glow, when you look at some people and they just naturally shine, it's all of that connection together as one.
I love that. I love that. And that is, again, it's so true, Sharon. And this is something that people across all cultures, and the gender itself, the whole gender, it feels so much of it, and they resonate with so much, right? And
Yeah.
so many women I know carry this invisible emotional labor, right? Keeping
Yes.
birthday, calming the conflict silently, adjusting their moods for others, as you said, as you shared your own story. Again, thank you for sharing that with us. So, why does this burden, or why does it feel so gendered, so uniquely feminine, and why is it always just this one gender that is, expected to shift their moods, or to adjust, or to silently weep and then react to it? Or we could say that the culture and the generations have, taught us, and they've wired us to absorb more than we release. So, what is it? What is the bigger picture of it?
Yeah, I think, like, it's so complex. And I think we're living in a world that has been very masculine, energetically driven. There's a definite, for thousands of years, men have been the ones that have kind of been in control, I guess. They're the ones that have been out there, you know, protecting our homes and earning the dollars and doing all the rest of it. Um, but also thousands of years ago, I think there was also, from a masculine perspective, there was also a genuine respect for the feminine side in their lives. So the women, their partners or the mothers of their children, and then obviously their own mothers, because they then become these wise women, and that they look after everybody. Now, I do think that that's something that's now been lost in some ways, and some cultures are probably better at it than others. But I do still feel now that women aren't kind of given the same respect as what traditionally was done. I do think there has been, this feminine movement that's been going on almost since the 50s, where, women want to be recognized for their intellect, and they want to be recognized that they can bring something to the table as well. But I think part of all of that has been that women who are trying to do that then feel that they have to match this masculine energy that is very dominant within society. And that masculine energy comes with, the power, the dominance, I guess, in the conversations. And sometimes it comes with that loudness, rather than a soft, I just want to say what I need to say. And if you can't listen to me at this particular moment, then maybe the conversation doesn't get had. And I think that women don't naturally feel that they need to be yelling from the rooftops for someone to hear them. But I think what's happened is that they've become that because no one is listening. And so that in itself sends a message to our own nervous systems to say, we're not good enough. No one's listening. I feel invisible, and all that kind of thing. And I think that the only way to retrain this energetics and it is changing, like across the world, I now see lots and lots of movements where I think women come together in groups like you and I, and we have these conversations, and then we promote this, and we then say, we are such sacred beings, and I think we are very clever. And I do think that personally, men need us. But I think what's happened is that it's become like a to-do list rather than the energy of supporting both the masculine and feminine energies. And I it'd be so nice to be able to kind of be within that circle where you have both energies together, because they are sacred together, because that's what makes the ultimate outcome, so to speak. But I think that there's this fight that kind of keeps going on. And I really, the only way I kind of feel is that women need to just keep coming back to themselves and being true to themselves.
Mm, that is so true. And yeah, that is how much truth have you spoken? That is so true. And okay, mm, let's talk about tools. So what are a few small grounding practices that women can use right in the middle of their life, like when you're stuck in traffic, running late, or trying to cook dinner while answering emails? So yeah, these are the
Yeah.
very small, but yeah, the bigger picture of it again. So any tools that you would love to share?
Yeah. So, I think and that's very true, is that cooking dinner while you've got children, maybe trying to do homework and you're trying to answer emails as well because you've left work early. Do you know what I mean? Like, we leave work to go and pick up the kids from school, but we're still on the phone, or we're still doing, a teleconference, or, on Zoom to, connect with people while we're then still in the supermarket buying dinner that we're then going to cook when we go home. And I think that in itself is something that we have to stop. Like, there is no other way around this somehow. But I do think that just having like 10 minutes for yourself, and whether, sometimes I've said to people, like the 10 minutes isn't really that long. When you think about a 24-hour day, 10 minutes for yourself is really not all you're asking. But the problem is that I think we don't know where to put it. And so I think the scenario that women are better looking for is, what is it that brings me pleasure that I can give myself 10 minutes, or become mindful of that, just that 10 minutes, that thing is bringing me pleasure. So it could be, your morning coffee or a morning routine. It could be, going for a walk in the morning or greeting the sun because you're up early. But it's just that 10 minutes that you're not sitting on your phone and trying to strategize your day ahead. You're just giving yourself those few moments to take deep breaths, and appreciate the fresh air that comes into your lungs, and then breathing, the old air or the old you out, so to speak. So you're always become conscious of bringing in new, energy, like new, apart from good oxygen. It's kind of, that's one way. And I think sometimes when we're sitting in a car and, we're sitting at traffic lights and we've got 1,000 things on, it's almost like you have to turn everything off, and then just breathe. Just take 5 deep breaths while you're sitting at the traffic lights and exhale, like just exhale. And you're consciously exhaling life, or the kids screaming in the background or whatever they're doing. The other things that I do think is part of our everyday routine is we have a shower. Most people have a shower once a day. And so even if that point of having a shower and using that as your sacred ritual for the moment, is where you become mindful of just using a product that smells really heavenly to you with the warm water. So it may not be the soap that the rest of the family uses, but you take the opportunity to use something special for yourself that just allows you to kind of go, you know what, this is just for me. Now, you're still having a shower like you do every other day, but you're just containing it into a moment that's just for you. And the other thing I always am very strong about this is the connection with nature. Like, I think if you can get yourself outside and just to sort of appreciate, even if it's raining, like, often it's portrayed that you need to be taking in sunshine, and I think that's fine. But the weather is the weather, the environment, whether you're in summer or winter, the planet provides us with a natural environment that we need to, as humans, interact with. And so I think that even if you can give yourself that 10 minutes outside, or you take your shoes off and you connect with some grass and connect with the planet, Mother Earth will definitely, re-energize you. And I do understand that when people, when women particularly when they're feeling anxious and overwhelmed and life is just too busy and they're kind of throwing their hands in the air, little points can be too much. Do you know what I mean? Like it can seem like another thing to do. It's another job on my to-do list, when if they actually just kind of like put that idea to the side and just said, you know what, I've got little things during my day that perhaps I can turn whatever it is that I'm doing during the day into something for me. So even if you're taking the kids to the soccer practice, or, your kids are in the swimming lessons or whatever they're doing, I think just the opportunity to take your shoes off and just to sort of allow your feet to be out of your shoes, that you even just go for a walk around whatever the environment is that they're doing their stuff, and just taking that opportunity because you're there anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're kind of there anyway. I certainly would not recommend now, like post this conversation. The other thing I would say, if you're cooking dinner, don't answer the emails. The emails are done. Your day is done. And if you feel like you haven't, you've left work a bit earlier because you've got it, you've gone to go and do the things with dinner and all the rest of it, then you accept that that's what's happened and that's what you're needed to do. And that maybe you get through dinner and sort out the next day, and then maybe say, okay, I'm just going to spend half an hour on finishing whatever I can do with my emails. And then once that half an hour is up, that's it, you're done. And I do believe that we need timers. None of us are very good with this, but we need timers. So you set the time separately to what you're doing so that when that alarm goes off, that is a signal to you that you're done for the day. And because we all get lost in our emails or our work commitments, we get lost into social media. We can get lost on Netflix, and not that I have a problem with Netflix because I do love my binge watching, but I do think that you're doing it from a point of there's a purpose to what you're doing rather than you're just doing it to escape. Do you think that would help?
That truly would, and that was such a clear remembering and such a clear, points and tools that you've shared. Those were really, really nice. And I hope they benefit people. And I truly, again, agree with most of the things that you said.
Mm.
When we talk touching the grass, working on ourselves, all of that. Also, to our listeners, what if you're calm? It wasn't something that you had to earn, but something that you were born with. And today, Sharon, she reminded us that healing, it does not always come in the form of big breakthroughs. Sometimes it begins with a breath, a pause, a gentle hand over your own heart, a gentle going through in your own mind. So, if anything from today's episode, it stirred something in you, don't overthink it. Take one small step toward your nervous system, not away from it. That could be drinking water slowly, watching the sky for 5 more minutes, or just telling yourself, I'm safe right now. I am Pragya Malvya, and until next time, keep choosing harmony over hustle, softness over survival, and your sacred self over the noise. You are not broken, you are just becoming whole. Take care and see you in the next episode. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I do hope it's helped. I just absolutely could talk about this for days. So thank you for having me.
It was such a great time.